For over 15 years, Saturdays and Illegal Curve have been synonymous with one another. With insight, analysis, and interviews regarding the Winnipeg Jets, the Manitoba Moose, and all around the NHL, here are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good morning, Winnipeg! Good morning, Manitoba! For all those joining us live this morning on our YouTube channel and live here at Winnipeg Jets FanFest from Hockey for All Center, welcome to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Dave Minuk is to my immediate left. Ezzy's running a couple minutes late, so we had to get the best possible fill-in we could. Benny joining us to start the show as we replace one mascot with a better mascot. Benny here replacing Ezzy on this Saturday morning. It's great fun. You know, Dave, the first couple shows are always they're good to get under our belt wet, get back into the swing of things. But here, broadcasting live from FanFest, this is always to me what is the kickoff and the launch of the next season. Bailey's here. She's got friendship bracelets.
The Weeb family is
here. Everybody's here. The whole Weeb family's here. Benny's giving out high fives. Okay. Look at these. Bailey.
IC bracelets to give away.
There you go.
We have our own IC Dave, IC Drew, and IC SEG.
There you go.
Courtesy of
Thank
Bailey,
you, everybody.
the unofficial intern of Illegal Curve and WST.
And everybody should be scanning those QR codes right over there. We are giving away prizes.
There goes Ezzy.
Bye, Benny. See you later, buddy. Thanks for joining us. There you go. There's the best intro. Our friends at Play Now, we are giving away tickets to an upcoming Winnipeg Jets home game, the home opener, in fact. We're giving away tickets. All you got to do is scan the QR code, and that way you'll be entered to win. We're giving away other prizes. It's a fun morning here live at Hockey for All Center, and it's just getting started. Look who's walking in. See, you never see Benny and Ezzy in the exact same spot at the same time, because Ezzy Ginsburg is walking in very surreptitiously, just as Benny had left at the same time. Lots going on this Saturday morning to start. A little chaotic to start, but that's the way we like it.
We love chaos. It's never a problem here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We're going to get Ezzy right back in right away. We're ready to go. And it's fun. It's been a couple days of training camp already. We've been covering this team extensively on of course, illegalcurve.com. And now we've got Ez joining the show. What's up, big guy?
Yeah, apologize, boys, for being a little bit late. We got up a little bit late in the Ginsburg home, so we obviously forgot to set our clocks. It's supposed to be 7:30, not 8:30.
Yes.
Right? But it's great to be here. It's great to see you, Tim. We haven't had any chit-chat time because I'm stepping right into the fire, but it's unbelievable, guys, how many people are outside.
They were outside. They were lined up outside. Dave and I, set our clocks properly, so we pulled in to the parking lot about 10 after 8, and they were lined up all the way down the sidewalk. It is absolutely wild the way we get it started here at FanFest, and the way the fans come out in full force as well. Ezzy, I got to tell you, I don't know if did you pass Benny as he was leaving?
Oh yeah, I gave Benny a high five right before I walked in.
He was sitting in for you before we started.
So
the transition goes,
Boys, Benny would do a lot better job than I would, I'll tell you that much.
He was silent, which was kind of nice.
He's more articulate than you are. There's no question about it. But the transition of Benny sitting there and him just getting up and leaving and you seamlessly walking into the shot.
We fill in for each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're the backup mascot, but you are the Illegal Curve mascot, so we like you for that as well. In any event, good to see you gentlemen on this Saturday morning. Everybody here at Hockey for All Center, be sure you're scanning the QR codes. That way you can enter to win the great prize draws we have going on. Scan it, of course, you get bonus entries if you subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel as well. But let's get down to business. Paulie Edmonds going to join us in about 25 minutes time. It's all about the Winnipeg Jets. Training camp, finally, they had the informal skates. We've been talking about those for the last couple of weeks. But now the training camp is underway. Dave, you've been here all week. The team is not shying away from the expectations. They're talking Stanley Cup. That's what they're saying. That's what they've said. That's what Scott Arniel said. Just your overarching impressions of the first couple days of training camp.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's there's a lot of excitement, and there's the opportunity for more for guys like Cole Perfetti. He recognizes. Scott Arniel mentioned him when they were talking about the power play and who's going to get take Nikolai Ehlers' spot on power play one, and he did mention how Cole Perfetti had that chance last year and most likely will be the guy he goes to this year. But more so, it's just this idea that there is a lot of excitement within the organization. Every player I've spoken to, and I've asked about Jonathan Toews' addition, has talked excitedly about what they expect him to be able to bring to this team. Not necessarily in points, but just in terms of that experience and what he is going to mean, again, not necessarily in terms of, he's got 10 goals in his first 20 games, but he's doing the little things that helps this team win, and he's such a smart player. Same with Gustav Nyquist. We talked to him for the first time. He, of course, joined the group this week. We hadn't seen him before that. And he's another guy who looked 75 points 2 years ago, 28 points last year, went split between the Wild and the Predators. So he's looking to kind of get back to form, get back to what made him so successful. He feels like it's not, even though he is 36 years old, it's not that far removed from that big successful 75 points. That's not nothing to sneeze at. So can he replicate that? Can he get back to that? He's going to have that opportunity here with the Jets. So I think there's a lot of excitement. Obviously, they know that Adam Lowry, who we talked to last week, he's going to be back. He's shooting for that November 1st or 2nd, whatever day that is, against the
Well, I actually have an
Penguins.
update on Adam Lowry. He's skating with JP Vigier. Obviously, everybody knows that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody can see that.
He was on the ice, exactly. He's going through
Yeah.
his, he's been doing that skating by himself, and as we walked in this morning, he was doing that as
And
well.
guys, hopefully he's able to come back a little bit earlier, but if not, the Jets have players that can fill that role. And, Dave talks about Cole Perfetti. For all the talk about, who's going to be on that second line, it's Perfetti and the veterans, right? Nyquist and Toews. And obviously, guys, I think it's much too early to start talking about line combinations because we haven't even hit a preseason game yet.
I'm not going to lie. The best was that Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press was tweeting out the lines on day one, and I was like, I joked with him. I'm like, the worst part is so many people love to see the lines, and then what they're doing is they're taking the lines from the 3 different groups, and they're of course picking out the veterans and saying, well, that's essentially your top 12 Winnipeg Jets.
And boys, there's a chance that for the opening game against Dallas, that is the line. It could be Toews, Nyquist, and Perfetti.
It probably
the only thing
is.
we know for sure.
I would be surprised if it isn't.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, it's Scott Arneal, the coaching staff, in the summer, they put that together as their idea. And, it's hard to extrapolate anything from preseason games because usually the rosters are often very one-sided. The traveling team, the road team, doesn't bring anything resembling sort of a full roster for the most part. So, it's hard to really get a gauge of how these guys are going to compete and how they're going to perform against NHL competition in the preseason because they're usually not playing necessarily against that NHL competition.
Absolutely. Preseason is more for jobs to be won and lost, right? For a player like Nikita Chibrikov, for example, to make an impression.
And he's making that impression. As somebody tweeted or somebody said, I don't know if it was Murat or somebody else said, they've never, there's no board battle that Nikita Chibrikov isn't interested in competing in.
Right, and that's what he's competing for, guys, right? Like, Chibrikov isn't competing for a number one spot on the top line, right? Like, he's competing for a fourth line job. And in the offseason, the Jets brought in guys like Tanner Pearson and Cole Koepke, so there's competition. Yep. And we talk about that every year, it seems, but I think this year more so, especially in the bottom 6, there's probably more competition maybe than we've seen in previous years, right? Because you're throwing in a guy like Brad Lambert, even though I think we'd all agree Brad Lambert has top 6 upside, it's going to be tough for him to necessarily crack that second line, right? So there's lots of jobs to be won, and there's saying that relatively speaking, because obviously there have been veterans that have come in, and they're most likely assured a spot on the opening night roster.
There's 15 or 16 forwards that you can make that conceivably can argue and make a case that they think they belong in that opening night roster. We know all the names. Then you got guys who seem like they might even be on the outside right now. A guy like David Gustafson, Jared Anderson-Dolan, who had an impact. Chibrikov, you mentioned. Lambert, you mentioned. There's lots of guys who are looking for opportunities and looking to make an impression. And when do you make that impression? You make that impression in the scrimmage today, in the training camp battles, in the preseason games. I mean, there's only so many opportunities, so you have to make that impression when you can, Dave.
No, there's no question about it. And one of the things we've seen, Ezzy, for every training camp...
By the way, sorry, before you continue, when are we giving out the friendship bracelets?
Well, that's courtesy. You've got one right, you're sitting over it,
Yeah.
but you've got one from Bailey, the intern. She made one for you, and then she made a bunch of IC ones that we can give away to folks.
Yeah, we'll give it
amazing.
away to folks. People are filtering in here, and anybody that's within voice range, make sure you're scanning the QR codes over here. We're giving away tickets to the Jets home opener. Scan both QR codes, you get bonus entries. So make sure, courtesy of our friends at Play Now, we have a lot of good stuff we're giving away. We're giving away the friendship bracelets that Bailey made.
Now I feel bad for making fun of the friendship bracelets.
Yeah, and you should
feel bad about making, you know.
Bailey's somewhere
Sorry,
in
Bailey.
here.
I appreciate this.
Yeah, you should feel bad about
You
that.
should thank her. She's somewhere over
She's
there.
somewhere over here in the ring, anyways.
Hey, look, it's Michael Remus.
It is indeed. No, I mean, look, this is one of those situations, really, that we always talk about competition being a good thing. And Josh Morrissey, when we talked to him on Monday before the Jets golf tournament, he said, like, this is probably the deepest team he's ever been on. And every year there's a guy who we're like, okay, is this guy going to take that position? If you recall, Parker Ford, what do you have, like 5 points in 6 training camp preseason games 2 years ago? And everybody's like, Parker Ford's going to be the 13th forward. Now he wasn't. Now, Jared Anderson-Dolan had a really good training camp last year. Everyone assumed he'd be the 13th forward. Then he broke his foot in Calgary, or against Calgary, and of course went back down to the Moose. My point is that there are always going to be these opportunities for guys, especially when, as you guys just touched on, you've got the Tanner Pearsons, you've got the Cole Koepkes, you've got a much deeper team.
Yeah.
It may not be as top-end talented as it was before, obviously without Nikolai Ehlers, who, as Mark Scheifele said the other day, they're never replacing him. You're never getting a one-for-one replacement for Nikolai Ehlers and what he can bring. But by committee, and you may have an opportunity here for all of these guys. So, like I said, it's going to be real interesting. And the one thing, I guess, for the guy who would normally be the 14th forward, Ezzy or Drew, the good news is that with Adam Lowry's at least being out, we expect another 3 weeks, is that you're not that decision won't have to be made. And obviously training camp has another 2 weeks to go, so we don't know if someone gets injured. That obviously changes the equation as well.
Yeah, but that's all the players can do, is they can control what they can control, and that's their own performance. And that's why they're so dialed in. That's why it's funny that there was an article about they're getting rid of the testing in the new CBA, and how the players are like, we don't need this anymore. It's not like we're coming into training camp in bad shape.
We're not trying to get drafted.
Well, this isn't 1982 where the guys would spend the summer just drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, and they wouldn't lift a weight or do any exercise. Or
I miss
anything.
those days when Howard Chuck would have a couple smokes during the intermission.
Well, you still abide by that rule. It's okay. You're still not in game shape
I
for
don't
training
smoke.
camp.
Smoking's bad.
There you go, exactly right. But I'm saying it's a different mindset altogether. The guys come in, in almost peak physical condition, and it's just a matter of sort of getting up to game speed. That's what training camp is for at this point in time, as opposed to anything else. I want to bring this quote up from Scott Arneal. This is in Murat's article from either late last night or this morning. Quote, every one of us in this room, we've talked about it, and we're not afraid to talk about the Stanley Cup. I mean, I like that the Jets they're not using... Say that?
They're embracing it.
They're embracing it, exactly right. They're not afraid to tackle the challenge head on. They say they know exactly where they're at. They know exactly where they're at in vis-a-vis that window, which of course is a too much of a cliche and shouldn't put that much stock into it, about the window being open and everything. But they know exactly where they are and where they want to get to. And they are saying, we're not afraid to talk about it. I like that approach from the Jets. Yes, you won a round in the playoffs last year, but you didn't get even to the Western Final. There's still a long way to go. Scott Arneal continues on, says, quote, there's a ton of work that has to happen to get there, but everybody's got their eye on the prize and they're laser focused on that. And I like that that's the approach they're taking to start this 25-26 Winnipeg Jets season.
Well, it goes to the additions they made in the offseason, right? Like, look at who they brought in. I mean, not just Jonathan Toews, but Gustav Nyquist. He has gone deep into the playoffs. He's got a Calder Cup, if I'm not mistaken, with the Grand Rapids Griffins, right? Tanner Pearson has won a Stanley Cup. That's not talked about a lot, right? Because Tanner Pearson's more of a bottom six guy, but you've brought in Stanley Cup experience. You didn't bring in these guys so the Jets could just make the playoffs or just maybe get into the second round, right? Last year, the goal was to win the Stanley Cup. They didn't obviously get there, but they took a few steps, right? Like, I still go back to that series between the Stars and the Jets. The Jets are one goal away from bringing it back to Winnipeg for Game 7, and I'm pretty confident the Jets would have won that game, and then they'd be going to the West Final. So last year was a baby step forward, if you want to call it that. Yeah. And now there's unfinished business, and if there's a motto or a theme, I think, for this year's team, it's probably unfinished business, right? Like, this team accomplished a lot, won a President's Trophy when not a lot of people thought they were going to win a President's Trophy. At least
nobody would be the answer.
Well, at least at the beginning of the season, once the Jets went 15-1, you thought, okay, well, maybe this team could win the President's Trophy, right? But there's no doubt that this team wants the Stanley Cup, and I think maybe, unlike last year, getting to the second round is not going to be enough, guys, right? Like, with the core of this team, and we know Neil Pionk's been locked up, Gabe Vilardi's been locked up, Dylan Sandberg, he's been locked up, not to as long of a term, but the core of this team is the same, right? Like, we talk a lot about some of the job openings on the third and fourth lines, but that's really it, right? Like, there's no openings when it comes to the goaltender position or on defense, right?
No.
So, I mean, this team is very similar to last year. Obviously, 27 is a big loss, but this team is absolutely, Drew, you're right. It's absolutely built for the playoffs, and you should be hearing this from the players, right? You should be hearing a lot of Stanley Cup talk. That's always a positive thing, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree in this case. I mean, if they were, I mean, I'm not surprised to hear it. I mean, to be perfectly honest, but for the head coach to come out and say it almost immediately, like, everybody knows what the goal at the end of the year is. Now, it's the same goal for all 32 teams, and we know all that jazz.
I wouldn't say all 32.
Well,
sorry, Pittsburgh, it's not your year this year.
But, last year was about sort of reaffirming themselves, and they've continued to do so. There is no team in the NHL that has won more regular season games over the last 3 years than the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, that is, that's just a stat. Now it's time to translate those regular season victories, Dave, into further postseason success. They've had a small taste. They want more now.
There's no question about it. But I mean, you also don't want to shy away from, like, expectations. I mean, it's not a bad thing. You did what you did last year. Now, nobody expects or really cares if they repeat as the President's Trophy winners. Of course, that's not the goal at the end of the day. But I would imagine that they'd want to be a team that won the William Jennings for the third year in a row. Yeah. Why is that? Because they want Hellebuck to have that award. They want that because it means that their commitment to defense was the same this year as it has been the same the prior 2 years. And this organization feels that their success comes from good defense. Scott O'Neill was asked about it. Sean Reynolds, in our availability yesterday, said, listen, like, does it give you an advantage when your team, let's say it's 80% of the same team, already has that commitment to defense? Essentially saying, you don't really have to teach that because this team already kind of has that locked down. Scott O'Neill's answer was interesting. He basically said, no, our commitment, if you've been watching the drills we've been starting with these 2 days, it's been focused on defense first. And why is that? Because it's got to be a collective team effort, and that's how they think they're going to have that success. So, and we saw it. Look, they were still a top 5 team in terms of goal scoring, and obviously number 1 in terms of keeping the puck out of the net. And as Ezzy would say, that has a lot to do with Connor Hellebuck, but also has a lot to do with their structure. So for me, I think it's a good thing this team is embracing that expectation that they are a Stanley. That's what they're doing. That's what the whole intention of this group is to get a Stanley Cup. And so you don't bring in Jonathan Toews because you think, he'll make you just a slightly bit more competitive. You bring him in because, if you go to another Game 7, you want a guy who has been through all of these, right? Didn't he have to do that against Detroit Red Wings, right, when Chicago was down 3-1 in that series against Gustav Nyquist, Ezzy?
That series, talk about a classic series.
Yeah. Well, you can remember, Toews was almost a little bit overwhelmed in that series, and I think it was Patrick Kane skated over, I can't remember if it was Kane
I
or
think it was Brent Seabrook.
I was going to say it might have been Seabrook, who skated over to the penalty box and
Good
really
memory.
calmed him down.
Right.
And then they sort of were able to regather their focus and end up winning that series.
Right, and my point is that a guy like Taves has that, like, where so many of these Jets players don't have that. Now, they'll have a little muscle memory from this past season, and every guy, whether it's a coach, whether it's a player, has talked about, like, you probably not see as physical a series between that Blues and Jets one. Like, that was 80s style of hockey.
Yeah.
It was not current modern day NHL hockey, what we saw between the Jets and the Blues, and the guys were feeling it after that series.
It was violent and vicious.
For sure, but the point is that the Jets, again, we talk about Cole Perfetti and the Manitoba Miracle. That came up yesterday when he was available. So I just think it's one of those situations where you've got a team that, with all of these guys, and bringing in a Tanner Pearson, who I have to say I've been pretty impressed by him. Like, his shot is really good. I kind of forget it because we don't really fixate on those guys who are not on the Jets, obviously. And I was watching him in the last week of skating, and I'm like, his skating's decent, but more importantly, he's got a great shot, and he's a veteran guy who has Stanley Cup experience. So as we've talked about, 3 guys now with Luke Shen, Jonathan Taves, and Tanner Pearson who have that pedigree, who have that experience, and can bring that knowledge to a team. While they've had great, tremendous regular season success, you're going to have 3 guys, including a Conn Smythe winner, who can be like, listen, guys, if there's something going wrong, I've been here, I've seen it all, calm down.
Yeah, there's absolutely no shortage of playoff experience now on this team, right? Like, not just internally, or I should say, not just with the existing core of this team who have now been through a few shorter playoff runs, but Nyquist and Pearson, and obviously Jonathan Taves is at the top of that list with all of his playoff experience, right, guys? So, yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's going to be tough to replicate the start. We talked about how important a good start's going to be. I don't know if the Jets are going to be able to go 15-1 again this year, but there's a lot of excitement, and obviously, there's nobody. The thing with the Jets is there's nobody mistaking the fact. Nobody forgets where this team's at in their trajectory, right? Like, everybody knows that this team is going for a Stanley Cup based on the last couple of years, right? So I think it's good to see a lot of the players on the same page and talking about it. And why not talk about it? If the players were talking about, we're hopefully going to make the playoffs this year, then I think fans are going to all of a sudden start scratching their heads.
What? But I mean, I think you make a good point there, Dave, about how the drills that they started with, that they even though, I mean, the core of the team understands and knows what their identity is and how they've achieved this success over the last couple of years is starting in their own zone, starting with defensive awareness. But I think it's good that Scott Arniel and the coaching staff chose to reinforce that again right from the beginning. It's easy to teach offense. Offense, everyone wants to play offense. It's a commitment to play defense. And Scott Arniel, by starting with those kinds of drills, is reminding the team, reminding the existing players, and teaching the new players that in this locker room and in this organization, success starts in your own zone. Everything will build out from there, but it is important, and I do like that they're not trying to overlook that and say they've got it. It's good. We're going to hammer it into you for the first few days, and then we can sort of build upon that. That's the kind of mentality that I think is a winning mentality for this team.
Well, remember, the worst thing that can happen is you get complacent. Oh, well, we were the President's Trophy winner.
Right.
Why do we need to, as I saw in the chat, reinvent the wheel? Well, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but you just need to ensure that wheel is greased up and running smoothly.
There you go.
And so, to torture that analogy, but I think
we need a tire rotation, I think is what you're talking about.
But I think it's one of those things, really, that, again, I'm not surprised that that's his focus, and I'm not surprised that, like you said, Drew, that this is what he is committed to with this team. Because, look, every one of these guys probably had 100 points in junior, not necessarily in college, but like...
Dave, you had 100 points in junior.
It's true. But the point is that all of these guys know how to produce offense. That's not a question. The real commitment is to playing that style, that brand. And again, it's something that even though, Gustav Nyquist is a 10-year vet, 12-year vet. Can't remember how many years he's played. But the reality is that even when he was like the Jets said, like Scott Arniel had mentioned, they sent the guys, probably the new guys, maybe everyone. He didn't specify, but he said they sent them their video to watch to watch how their systems, and he said it's a kind of a hybrid of what he's used to, meaning that even a guy with, tons of NHL games under his belt still needs to learn this system. And again, it doesn't hurt when you've had a summer off and you're, under different training, under different sort of leadership when you're, doing your own thing on the summer, you're with other guys, to have this refresher, to have this okay, this is the way we do things. Make sure you have a good vision of it, because that's what we're going to be working on the first 2, 3, 4, 5 days of training camp.
I love it. I think that's the right approach. It seems like training camp off to a good start so far with the Winnipeg Jets, the 25-26 season just around the corner. Training camp, of course, a key part of that. We're live this morning at Hockey for All Center, Winnipeg Jets FanFest. Make sure you stop by the broadcast booth, scan the QR codes, enter to win great prizes. We are giving away tickets to the Winnipeg Jets home opener. We're giving away a Play Now Winnipeg Jets prize pack. Be sure to scan all the QR codes. You get bonus entries as soon as you subscribe as well to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. There's a lot going on. There's people everywhere as far as the eye can see. It's a great day this Saturday morning. When we come back, our good friend Paul Edmonds is going to join us for more Jets talk. Drew Mindell, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, producer Tim making us sound good. It is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show live from Winnipeg Jets FanFest.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in 2 unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Alrighty, we are back at Winnipeg Jets FanFest. Look who's down at the end of the table there. We'll let him get set up and then we'll bring him on. Take your time. Take your time. It's okay. It's Paul Edmonds. It's the radio voice of the Winnipeg Jets. It's a good friend of ours here on the program. We always like to bring him on here when we're at FanFest as part of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. I guess a belated happy anniversary, first and foremost.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
This is where you're at after 16 years. First off, before I get to that, this is a standing invitation. I understand that.
Yes, of course.
To have me on, I appreciate it. But it also... Does it rain every single
that's the same
time
thing I
we
said to
have
Dave.
this FanFest? Like, it rain, and I'm not exaggerating. There's no hyperbole here.
Yeah.
It rains every single Saturday of FanFest, and it's pouring out right now.
I said to Dave
as
I picked him up this morning, I said, every year it's raining. It's amazing. It is uncanny. I mean, of course, you just land the private helicopter on the roof
Right.
of Hockey for All Center
Right.
and come in through the roof.
I
that
have
way.
4 people with umbrellas when I exit
right.
the helicopter.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
exactly.
Not a drop hits me.
No,
Yeah.
Secret Service indeed. I had no idea it existed.
And I've seen a lot of drops today, a few drips as well. But no, back to the anniversary thing. This is interesting. When you get to 16 years,
Yes.
she actually left. Yesterday was the anniversary date.
I was going to say, she left you on your anniversary?
She went with a girlfriend up to our lake place. So we didn't even have dinner or anything together. It was like, a kiss in the kitchen, see you later. And all right, we'll see you when you get home and we'll figure this out and we'll go out and have dinner or a glass of wine together or whatever. But I mean, that's where you're at. So I'm going with my friend Sarah and we're going up to the lake. See you later. I'm like, okay.
Love you too, sweetie.
Yeah, there's food for the cat, food for the dogs. Way you go.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. No food for you.
There was nothing made for me, no.
Nonetheless, I extend the wishes regardless. Nice to see you again. It's always
thanks.
fun to get back here.
Yeah.
The excitement, you can feel it. It's palpable. Those first couple weeks of September, the casual skates, this is the kickoff to me. This is really where it gets the juice flowing for the next season when FanFest happens and the lineup is long and people clamoring to get in here. The players are being swarmed by adoring fans. This to me is always sort of the kickoff to the next season.
Yeah, there's rites of passage, right? And this is certainly one of them. And I think today, the entertainment's for the fans as well as for the players and the coaching staff to get their work in. I mean, they're going to have a skate in 2 separate groups on 2 separate sheets of ice. Then they're going to come together and have a scrimmage. And I think that's going to be great. And the interesting part for me is if you've been following with what's going on or what isn't going on when it comes to the spots that might be open for this team, you can really isolate today on watching a couple of those players because there's no spots in the goaltending department. There's no spots on the blue line.
Yeah.
There might be some mixing and matching as to who is going to be 6, who's going to be 7, who's going to be 8, who might be waivers exempt or waivers eligible. But at that point, there's not a lot of movement there. There is some probably on the 4th line, and we can get to that. So you can come here as a fan today and really isolate on watching Walker Dewar, for instance.
Sure.
And you can watch Tanner Pearson on that 4th line. You can see how Morgan Barron might do and where he shifts in. And if they're actually going to, start him at center or if he's going to be on the wing, I think he's going to be at center. But there is some intrigue today about the scrimmage as well as the team getting their work in as they need to at this time of year.
Well, one of those players that's really intriguing to me is a guy the Jets signed in free agency, didn't make a big splash, but that's Cole Koepke. Because this is a guy that obviously the Jets went out and they wanted him, they targeted him in free agency, and he took their money to come here. But he to me is a guy that I mean I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about his game aside from that he's in that bottom 6, the 4th line role. But he's a guy to me that's intriguing because a lot of people have him sort of marked in the opening 12 when it comes to the forward group, but I don't think a lot of people have necessarily seen what he can do on the ice.
I think he's a factor. I think that he is going to try to potentially earn a job in that 4th line. I think that he's suited for that. I watched him the other day specifically. Not a bad size guy, probably 6'1", 6'1.5", maybe pushing 6'2", but not quite there. Skates very well and very quick. And I think with the layers of NHL experience, and there's not a lot of them, but he has some of them, that he can then apply that to being a very good 4th line, trustworthy type of player from the standpoint that he's going to maybe kill some penalties. He's going to go out there in defensive zone faceoffs. You can trust him. He's going to get the puck out. He's not going to take a penalty at the wrong time. So he is one of those guys. And then the other thing is he fits into what was the Hermantown 2 that's become the Hermantown 3 now, and the whole UMD Bulldog scheme that we have seen for the last few years. And I mean, we're joking about it when it comes to Sandberg and Pionk, but great guys for sure. And he fits right into that as well, and a friend, and plays golf. And I actually talked to him the other day. What's interesting is, and people can relate to this that might live in more of a smaller Manitoba community that are tuning in, or anywhere that they're tuning in that are outside of the big cities. You get those smaller but robust type of towns that are sporting towns with lots of kids. And everybody's brother knows everybody's sibling and sister, and there might be a year or two apart, but everybody really knows everybody, and they've had some integration and some interaction. And so when I got talking to him, he was like, well, I know Neil, but I was more friends with Neil's brother, Aaron, but he was friends with Sandberg's sister. It goes on that way, and it's neat to see the interaction and the connection when you have a smaller sporting type of community like that, where everybody can get together, 3 families, and they can form a baseball team.
Paulie, obviously, Jonathan Toews, he's making a little bit of noise here at training camp. I haven't been at training camp like Dave has, and as you have as well, but what has kind of stood out to you about just Jonathan Toews' presence around this team and the outlook of this team? We were talking about it earlier. Obviously, you don't bring in Johnny Toews, you don't bring in Gus Nyquist, you don't bring in Tanner Pearson for a team that's just trying to get into the playoffs. This is a team that has, I think you'd agree, unfinished business from last year.
Interesting, because for the last couple of years, and I thought about this last night as I was watching baseball, and that is that the move by this organization, this team, to get deeper and older at the forward core didn't start this summer. It didn't start last summer. It started for me when they acquired Vladislav Namestnikov mid-season and Nino Niederreiter mid-season or at the deadline. Those were 2 moves that they made to get more experienced up front, deeper up front. It continued last summer, and then it really accelerated this summer with those signings that you mentioned. So I get asked the question, as you guys would as well, what's Jonathan Toews going to be like? That was the number one question that I fielded all summer long. My answer was pretty stock.
Paulie's like, can you leave me alone? I'm fishing out here.
Well, I was getting text messages. If I went up the river further, then I never had service, and I went up the river a lot. Let's just say that. But I said, if he is 70% of what he was in winning 3 cups in Chicago, he's going to be a real nice fit as a second-line center for the Winnipeg Jets. Well, I posed that to somebody within the Winnipeg Jets hierarchy, and they said he'll be better than that. And that was leading up to training camp commencing on Thursday when it was open to the public. Well, I've watched him for the last couple of days, and he doesn't look 37 years old to me. He doesn't look like he's missed 2 seasons. He doesn't look like he had ailments where he had to go over to Asia to find the solutions for them. So from that standpoint, I think you're going to get a real good second-line center who's motivated to win. As Chevy said the other day, this isn't just some fantasy dream about coming home and playing before his mom and dad and his family. He is here to win. And I think he's put the right amount of work into making sure that he fits the bill on what they need and how he's going to make others around him better. The other thing is, I think he is a chip for when you are trying to maybe improve your team at the deadline, where you can say, hey, look, if somebody gets hurt or isn't working out, we're going to slot you beside Jonathan Toews. Or, as my youngest guy said, hey, are they calling him Taser? He said to me last night. I said, yeah, I guess it's not JT or Captain Sirius or Jonathan, it's Taser. So to use the nickname, you can slot him in beside Taser, and I think that would be something that would be attractive to some sort of free agent that maybe wants to get out of a situation where they're not going to make the playoffs and look at Winnipeg as a destination to say, hey, I can win something here and play with a guy that's going into the Hall of Fame for sure.
Well, it's not written in pen, but it seems pretty set that Cole Perfetti is going to be one of those guys who's going to be beside Taser, as you've called him, Paulie. And so the question I have for you is, like, What do you think? We talked to Cole Perfetti obviously yesterday, but from your perspective, he's played with a lot of really good teammates, and he's a very smart player himself. But what do you think he can learn from a guy like Jonathan Toews? Like, how much wisdom is this going to provide for a guy who is a player that the Jets see as that guy who needs to be a driver and was last year more than he'd ever been?
I don't know that I've got a succinct answer for your question, but I will draw on what that question was sort of relayed to Scott Arniel yesterday, and the answer that came from Scott Arniel about his line mates and about Cole Perfetti. I think we saw a huge step taken by Cole Perfetti last year. He was healthy, he played in all the games, he was more durable, he was more rugged even for the size that he is. He's learned that. He's learned to be more elusive in the corners and along the walls and not get banged and come away with the puck and make a play. But the interesting part about his evolution now, all of a sudden now with Gus Nyquist and Jonathan Toews, is that Arniel yesterday referred to him as the shooter. Yeah. And then he called Jonathan Toews the driver. And then he called Gus Nyquist the playmaker. So there's your dynamic of that line. And I think the world is the oyster, certainly for Cole Perfetti in this scenario. The other thing is when he had his scrum yesterday, and I wanted to be cheeky with this, but there was some sincerity as well. But I don't know that I've seen, like, Cole Perfetti gets bugged all the time about not smiling and not enjoying the NHL experience, right? He's serious. Boy, there was a smile from ear to ear on his face yesterday when he was talking to the media. He's smiling a lot right now, and how could you not be if you're playing with those two veteran guys and have an opportunity to really push forward to 25 or maybe 30 goals or 70 points? I'm not putting these numbers on him because I think that he has to get there because they've lost Nikolai Ehlers on that line, and as Mark Scheifele said the other day, they have to start doing some things by committee. I believe that Cole Perfetti is poised for a season like that, especially with the guys that he's playing with. And who would have thought he was the shooter now on that line?
Well, and Paulie, I'll just say one thing. You are right, because Colby Spence, our photographer, all of his pictures of Perfetti on the ice, big smile. I'm like, what's going on? He's changing the narrative.
Saturday morning, this is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We're live at Winnipeg Jets FanFest at Hockey for All Center. Paul Edmonds, the radio voice of the Winnipeg Jets, is joining us as we delve deep into the Jets training camp underway. You know, Paul, I look up and down this Jets roster, and this isn't a new thing from this organization. They've always put a premium on hockey smarts, on hockey IQ. And I look up and down this roster, and I have trouble believing there's another NHL team that is going to be as high end with their hockey IQ, you know, on the ice in terms of the in-game adjustments and in-game maneuvering as this Winnipeg Jets team. You look up and down, these are guys who, you know, what they lack in foot speed, because they're not a fast team. I think they're going to make up, and even Scott Arniel mentioned it yesterday, the intelligence that they're going to have on the ice, I think is going to be an asset and maybe going to make up for a lot of what they might otherwise lack in physical attributes.
I gave you that answer about building this team with a more veteran forward core a couple of years ago. It's by design. You look at any of the teams that have got to the conference finals, won the conference in their respective two, got to the Stanley Cup final, and then won it, Florida, the last couple of years. Veteran-laden teams, not the most fleet of foot, not the fastest teams. I mean, look at the addition of Brad Marchand. Crafty, smart, high hockey IQ. How invaluable was he for the Florida Panthers in their run to a second straight cup? That's just one example. So as we've talked about, we've heard copycat league, the National Hockey League. What goes on, there's cyclical elements to this. And one of them right now is to find the players that have a lot of tread on the tire, guys that have played, been through certain scenarios in these wars, might not be the fastest player anymore, but can outwill you, number one, outcompete you, number two, and then turn around and make a play because they are so hard to knock off the puck. You don't have to be that fast to do that. So, but you have to have some speed. There's no question about it. But I think that there has been something that's been built around that team, that organization, that building of what they perceive to be a championship type team around this group for the last 2 plus, maybe 3 seasons for sure.
And I think just to throw one other thing in on the team speed, right? When you take out a guy like Ehlers, who's one of the fastest guys in the league, it's not like all of a sudden the team becomes a slow team. You know what I mean? Like, I think that narrative is a little bit, like, Ehlers is a significant piece, but it's not like these other guys are out there skating in quicksand. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that, you know, there's enough guys on this team that have a speed element to their game that it's not going to be maybe as noticeable as some people think, right? And I think it's because Ehlers, let's be honest, he's flashy, obviously dynamic, can score a lot of goals, but I think and it's also a difficult thing to quantify, right? Like, are we gonna measure these guys' speed? But it's definitely, I think, to Drew's question and your point, obviously, I mean, I think there's even more reason to think that they're going to rely on that defensive structure to score goals off the counterattack and stuff like that. But I'm not as worried, Paulie, maybe, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, if you differ in opinion, I'm not as worried as other people about this team's ability to score goals, right? Like, Gus Nyquist comes in, whether he's a 75-point guy or a 50-point guy, I think he replaces some of Ehlers' offense. I think Jonathan Toews, obviously, we're not as sure how much offense we're going to get from him, you know, if you contrast that to what Nemesnikov was giving you on the second line. But to me, that's not as big of a concern maybe as some other people think it is, scoring goals. I'm not worried about that. I think this team is going to score goals. Even on the power play, I think a guy like Perfetti is going to fill in seamlessly for Ehlers, not putting too much pressure on him, but I think he's got enough offensive upside that he'll be just as good on the first power play. Who knows if that means they're going to finish first? In a roundabout way, I'm saying, I guess, how do the Jets deal with that a little bit, with a little bit lack of speed from Ehlers and spreading that out throughout the rest of the lineup?
Speed was great, but the one attribute that Nikolai brought was the ability to win a game, end a game with one rush, right?
Game in Washington, the overtime winner.
The Florida game, there was an Ottawa game. I mean, that goes back a couple years now, but I just think about those rushes that he had. Sure. That element might be missing now. But I do totally agree with Ezzy. They're not going to have...
That's a scary feeling, isn't it?
It is, but that was an awesome soliloquy, by the way.
Sorry, I rambled on a little bit longer.
I was waiting to see if there was a question at any point in time.
I was late for the show. I got to bed a little bit late last night.
Well, you took that one out for dinner, I can tell you that. Anyway, I do agree. This team is not going to have a hard time scoring goals. We're going to see goals. And again, back and hearkening to what the coaches are saying. Scott O'Neill talked about the foundation of defense yesterday. And I think to paraphrase the quote was, how can we not work on always being better defensively? I'll tell you one area where, okay, they might give up a little bit of speed in losing Ehlers. Cole Koepke's a fast guy as well, as I talked about earlier on. But the game for me has always been, and this is where we get into the metrics of analytics, about possession. Hockey, like soccer, is 99.9% possession. And you can help your possession by winning faceoffs. And this team has had a difficulty being in and around 50% as a group of 4 centermen, and maybe 4.5 when Barron was rotated in, depending on what was happening. Jonathan Toews will not alleviate a lot of that, but he will improve that. Jonathan Toews will be the best centerman in terms of draws that this team has maybe ever seen, or seen since Brian Little had to depart hockey because of the injury at the hands of Nikolai Ehlers. I hate to remind everybody, but at the same time, he was an excellent centerman. He won draws. Jonathan Toews will help that. So if you start with the puck, then your speed can come, because now you're moving whichever direction you want, or you are moving the puck in the direction that you want. So I think that they might lose a little of the speed without Nikolai Ehlers, but I think there's other aspects to their game that will improve, that will help them compensate for that.
Paulie, you mentioned a little bit in your answer, in your first answer, but defensive, I mean, what is going to give here? Because, I mean, we look at this group and we know who the top 4 are. There's no question about that. We have a reasonable idea who the third pairing is going to be. but 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, the question becomes, if you're the Winnipeg Jets, what are you doing with a Ville Heinola or a Logan Stanley? Because you've got Hayden Fleury, who you've re-signed. You've got, what's his name? You brought in, who am I forgetting?
Colin Miller as well.
Colin Miller. Yeah, Colin Miller's. So you've got all of those guys, and then to the point that we've been talking about, there's this logjam. And you've been trying for years to keep these defensemen and to not lose them to waivers. But it seems like something's got to give this year. How do you see it playing out? And I know technically it's future casting, and injuries could play a big role in the next couple of weeks of training camp. But to me, the Jets have always managed to avoid losing guys to waivers. But it seems this year it's almost inevitable.
I agree to a certain level on that. I think that if you are looking at Ville Heinola being your 8th guy and he has to go down, that his injury status the last couple of years and the fact that he hasn't played doesn't make him very attractive on the waiver wire, so you might be able to sneak him down and thereby give him some playing time again and keep Logan Stanley. Logan Stanley, for me, and I know that he's a polarizing figure with Jets fans for sure, but at 6'7", you can't teach that. And I still think that if you exposed him on the waiver wire, somebody's going to grab him. I believe your third pairing after that is Hayden Fleury. He had earned that near the end of the season, and then certainly into the playoffs. And the game 7 against St. Louis, when Morrissey went down early and they played overtime and double overtime and all those minutes that were tacked on to DeMello and Pionk. Pionk was like 46 minutes. And I mean, it was just crazy. But there are defining moments. There are epiphanies of when players really cement themselves, and Hayden Fleury did that. And then you've got the right shot and the experience of Luke Shen and some Stanley Cup experience there as well. I believe he's going to be with Hayden Fleury on your third pairing. So now it's Colin Miller rotated in on the right side and probably Logan Stanley in on the left side, depending on how the roster shakes down and how many guys you keep. But you're right, David. I mean, there's going to be some guys that are exposed on the waiver wire, and what you're trying to do is maybe expose them at the same time that everybody else has done that. There's really a flood into the market of all of these players. And remember, if you do claim somebody, they have to play. You can't just stuff them back down on your AHL or your farm team, right? So from that standpoint, this might be a year where you can get Ville Heinola down and not worry about losing him and still feel that he has the opportunity to develop within your system and be a good defenseman, like a Josh Morrissey, like a Neil Pionk, because that's the mode that he's built in, and be an offensive defenseman if somebody ever moves on in the not-too-distant future.
Well, to your point there, Paulie, what I think is interesting about the Jets' bottom pair, I agree that it's probably going to be Hayden Fleury and Luke Shen to start, but it's not like Logan Stanley and Colin Miller aren't also NHL options. You're not picking out an option that's going to be, maybe we'll see if he can play at the NHL level. Miller and Stanley do have hundreds of games of NHL experience underneath them, so that if Hayden Fleury is struggling or needs a night off, if Luke Shen, I think the ability to sort of interchange your bottom pair of your defense with NHL caliber talent is an asset and really speaks to the depth that this organization has and this team has, because same thing with your forward group. If your fourth line is struggling and needs to be rejigged, you have other guys who've played NHL games that you can call upon. I think that is, the depth is what's the Jets have built, and that's I think what they think is going to win them regular season games.
Drew, we've always heard from upper executives that your team at the NHL level needs about 10, 11 defensemen because, and I can't remember exactly the year, but it was the year that Ben Sherratt broke in with the Jets, and he was nowhere near on the depth chart for the Winnipeg Jets when they started that season. But through just an avalanche of injuries on the blue line, boom, here's Ben Sherratt.
Didn't they have to go and get Jay Harrison from the Carolina Hurricanes
that
year?
They did. It was just, they didn't have
Shout
enough.
Shout out to Paul Postma as well in that group.
He was going to be the next Bobby Orr, by the way. I look back and let history be your guide, and that's why you always have more defensemen than it appears that you need. And the need comes from this guy goes down with a hamstring, this guy's got an Achilles problem, there's a separated shoulder here. Whatever it might be, you need to have that depth as well. The Jets certainly are in position to absorb any type of injury that way, or if somebody is not performing, then you can rotate those guys in, as you talked about with Colin Miller and Logan Stanley, because they have the NHL experience. So I think the Jets are in a good situation when it comes to the blue line. We'll see what happens, as Dave mentioned, with the waiver wire, because somebody's going to have to be exposed.
Paulie, we talked about some of the bottom 6 guys earlier. We talked about, I think, Cole Koepke, we talked about Tanner Pearson, we talked about. I wanted to ask you, is there anybody, and we should mention there's a preseason game tomorrow. It's kind of crazy to think that, but there is a preseason game tomorrow. I wanted to ask you, is there a player or a couple players that you're interested to see how they do in these preseason games that aren't the normal core players? Like, is there somebody that you're going to be maybe focusing on a little bit more than another player? I'm assuming it might be one of these guys that's competing for a bottom 6 spot.
David Gustafsson would be one for me. He's been around, but this is a different camp for him. He was always trying to make the team as maybe a center. I wonder now if he's trying to make the team as a winger. And he's in tremendous shape. I've watched him. He's been very good on the ice. I know that he'll get a shot, but you wonder if he is an odd man looking in. The other one is, what do you do now with Morgan Barron if you are going to play him as a center? Remember the line from Morgan Barron always was, I'm a winger that takes draws. And that's not the case anymore. He's going to have to learn to button hook down low, support the defenseman, make sure the breakouts are there, not fly in the zone, things like that you want from your centerman, and play it at an NHL level at a very quick pace. So those are a couple guys that I'm watching for sure to see how they react. There will be a Cole Koepke, a Walker Duehr. Again, we're standing around the scrum, and sometimes there's the minutia of hockey gets talked about, and the full 60, and we've got to do this and we got to do that, but there's some reading between the lines that goes on, and what you're really doing is hearing what they're saying sometimes. And when coaches mention a name, that should be something that you key in on. And yesterday, Walker Duehr was mentioned by Scott Arniel, and nobody mentioned it to him. That came out voluntarily. And I thought, okay, that's something to lock into here, because they've obviously felt that they like his presence. He's a big player. He has that NHL experience that we've talked about. And I think that they see him having a role in the bottom 6, certainly on that 4th line. Maybe not to start, but at some point. So, again, these guys maybe not are out there in the exhibition or the preseason schedule to crack the lineup when it breaks getting ready for the Dallas game on the 9th of October. But to be that first call-up, to be that guy that's ready to go because you prove something to the coaching staff over this period of time, when you do get sent down, you're the guy that gets called back up if there is a problem on the 4th line with an injury or whatever it is, and you now have your chance to stick and stay at the NHL level. So those are just 3 guys that I'm going to be watching for sure. The dynamic of how Nyquist and Perfetti and Taves all play together, there's going to take some time there. How does Vladislav Nemestikov do with Nino and with Iafallo? There's that as well. So I'm watching those things, but I'm really watching, Ezzy, the guys that might be on, quote-unquote, the bubble.
No, it would be you, I think. But anyways, nonetheless, I'll ask a question regardless. Okay, well, I can't remember it.
Hey, no fighting, okay?
Let me. We like to fight.
Kids around,
Mark Scheifele. I mean, it's hard to think that as a 32-year-old veteran on this team, that there's a lot more that he's going to sort of learn at this point of his career. But when he's next to a guy like Jonathan Toews, or he's in the room with a guy like Jonathan Toews, what impact do you think Toews can have on Scheifele, at both of whom, in their role as centerman for this Winnipeg Jets team?
A lot. And it will be quiet, though. I mean, it won't be, hey, Scheifs, we don't do that here. There won't be any of that. But it will be Mark will watch how Jonathan Toews carries himself. The story that he regaled with us about going out with him for dinner at 18 years old, and all those stars from the Chicago Blackhawks being around, and how he was just overwhelmed and he didn't say a word. I'm not so sure that he's going to be afraid to talk now, because he's well established as one of the leaders in the top line center on this team. But Mark has always talked about being better, even at 32 years old, and being a 200-foot player. And we've really seen that, certainly under Rick Bowness and now Scott Arniel, the improvement, the evolution of that 200-foot game from Mark Scheifele. I think if you ask Mark, there's still more to give, there's still more to improve on. So if you can watch a guy that's won the triple gold, I mean, World Championships, NHL Stanley Cups, gold medals at the Olympics, World Juniors. I still think of the 3 goals that he scored in the World Juniors in the shootout, right? Like the pressure, how you handle your situation in those situations. And I believe that there is some learning still for Mark Scheifele. He would tell you that. I think he spoke to that the other day. I think he's thrilled to have Jonathan Toews. I think this group looks around and says, and I had a conversation with one player the other day. I had a really good conversation with him. Despite the fact that Nikolai Ehlers is not here, this player told me he feels they're even better than they were last year. And that's with Jonathan Toews, that's with Gus Nyquist, that's with Tanner Pearson being down maybe on that 4th line. All those experience. When you think about Jonathan Toews, when you think about Tanner Pearson, and when you discuss Gus Nyquist, all in the same conversation, 4 cups over 2,500 NHL games. Bring that into your room and see where that gets you. Does that get you another win in Game 6 in Dallas? I don't know, but I'd like to have those guys along with me going into Game 6 in Dallas for sure in that type of scenario.
Paulie, just to jump off that a little bit, one of the things I've been so impressed by listening to Jonathan Toews, Taser as you call him, is the fact that
it's fair. Not my name for him.
Yeah, no, fair.
Only Paul gets the call.
Yeah. But I'll go off of it. But no, the thing that I find that is so interesting to me is you've just mentioned all of his accomplishments. This guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, no question. One of the most accomplished athletes this province has ever produced. And I can't get over how humble he is. Like when we listen to him, and I don't remember if it was, I think it was the last media availability we did with him, and he talked about earning his stripes, about being in this room and earning his stripes. I thought to myself, like, you can talk in any room you want. You're Jonathan Toews. Like, you've accomplished everything there is to do in hockey, and yet he's talking about wanting to, be a guy who just he's joining this room. He's not coming in and, like you said, he's not going to have a louder voice than anyone else, even though he could technically say, well, I deserve that. But the other thing I find so fascinating is during the informal skates, especially when there were less guys here, not the full teams, as we've seen, the way he interacted with guys who were wearing Moose jerseys, the Tyson Empes, the Reese Vitalis, guys who are not on NHL deals, but he treated them just like they were his teammates. He didn't treat them with any, I don't want to say disdain, because most guys wouldn't, but he treated them as if they're just the same as every other guy who's on the NHL roster. I just thought it was very interesting to watch that behavior from someone like that and hear his words and think, wow, like that's pretty impressive for a guy who could have this otherworldly attitude and doesn't.
So I have a funny story. On Tuesday, they had what the organization calls the car wash day, but it's the production day, and they closed the whole Hockey for All Center down, and True North marketing, content, a number of other departments take over. And for fans that don't know, it's where you see the Videotron where guys are twirling sticks or they're doing the game stuff. That all gets shot basically in one day.
Mitchell Clinton's twirling the microphone.
Right. So I'm always here doing liners, getting the players to do returns or liners for the radio station, of course. So Jonathan Toews was one of the first guys out of the gate, and I had to get him on Tuesday morning, and this is like 7:30 in the morning. And I came up to him, and he said, honestly, who are you again? and so I reintroduced myself. And then to your point, yesterday, he walked by me and said, hey, Paul, how's it going? Knew my name after that one interaction of who are you again? And he was innocent and trying to be nice about it and respectful.
But it registered after you
It
did
registered.
Yes.
That's the kind of culture in the room that we've seen develop and improve over the last few years. He's going to take that to another level. He's excited to be here. And at 37, how could you not be in your hometown? The best line in July, though, when he was introduced was, and I wrote this one down, "I feel like I've been drafted again," was his quote. And I thought, that is just tremendous.
The rebirth.
There was a genesis for him. There is a rebirth. And we're going to see it. And boy, the Winnipeg Jets will gladly pay bonus money to Jonathan Toews for all of the incentives that he hits. And I wouldn't be surprised if he hits most, if not all of them. And I'll also say this to you.
One of them includes the Stanley Cup, my friend.
Right, that's right. One of them, I will tell you, in a private conversation, and again, I won't mention the player, but we got talking about Jonathan Toews and the improvement of this team. And he said to me, "I've skated with Jonathan here for the last couple of weeks. I'm thoroughly impressed with the body, the shape, the body of work right now. Of course, he brings all of the resume with him, but to see it in real time. Watch maybe for Jonathan Toews, not to necessarily make the team, but if he gets out of the gate well, be into the conversation for Canada on the Olympic team."
Well, just to jump off that idea, I mean, that's something none of us were even talking about. Nobody was even thinking.
But this was brought up by a player.
No, I know.
And I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about that, but I am now.
But it was funny because Jim Bender of the CP asked him when we finished our media availability, and we had already kind of shut down the mics, and he said, and Jim said, is that a factor at all? And he said, I'm thinking about it. I would be lying if I said I haven't given it some thought. And then we're like, oh, none of us were thinking about that, but yet Jonathan Toews clearly had that in his brain a little bit.
I mean, it just goes to show you the kind of professional and the mindset of a player whose standard is so high coming back, and that's immediately what he's thinking about. The benefits will certainly outweigh any drawbacks for the Winnipeg Jets organization. Paulie, thank you, my friend.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. The one question I will just say, as and I'm not trying to be, funny.
Be funny.
But with Adam Lowry not participating for what? Maybe the first 4, 5, or 6 weeks of the season? Somewhere in around there? Yeah. I know that Neil Pionk has worn a letter. I'm wondering if there is a letter that's handed to Jonathan Toews in the form of an A as well, and you go with one captain and 3 or 4 A's or 3 A's. I'm just interested to see. He doesn't need the letter.
I was going to say,
he doesn't need the letter.
Okay.
But the symbolism, I think, would really react favorably for what you're trying to do here, because how can you not reward a guy already that's come into that room and acted accordingly like we just laid out? But my pleasure for being here, and next year I hope it doesn't rain.
Well, I'll tell you what, it hasn't dampened the spirits of anybody within the confines of the Hockey for All Center.
And it's not the heat, it's the humility.
There you go. Well done. It is packed. Paul Edmonds, our guest Saturday morning. Anyone within voice and coming down here, be sure to scan the QR codes. Enter to win tickets to the home opener, courtesy of our friends at Play Now. We got a Play Now Winnipeg Jets prize pack. Be sure to scan all the QR codes. You'll be always tuned in to us here on Illegal Curve, and of course you'll be tuned in to Paulie Edmonds on 680 CJOB and Power 97. It all gets started, as you said, tomorrow. Hard to believe it's that soon, but we're looking forward to another great year on the mic with yourself and Mitchell Clinton. Thanks for this.
You're welcome, and I've got to remember in the next 24 hours on how to do this.
Good luck to that there. Paulie Edmonds, our guest. We'll go to break. Still to come this morning on the show, Sarah Orleski is going to join us. Drew Mindell, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, Paul Edmonds, and producer Tim. It's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Alrighty, we're back with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show live here from Hockey for All Center, Winnipeg Jets FanFest. Remember, scan the QR codes that are on display over here at our booth. You're going to be entered to win a great prize pack from our friends at Play Now. You're going to be entered to win 4 tickets, and these are good tickets, let me tell you. 4 tickets to the home opener against the Dallas Stars. Scan both QR codes. That'll get you into the draw. You subscribe to the Illegal Curve channel. You get bonus entries as well. Maybe we'll even send Ezzy over to your house and do something where
he'll deliver the tickets.
Ezzy will, which is
nobody
odd.
wants that.
Yeah, it's odd because they're all electronic nowadays. But Ezzy will still deliver the tickets.
Did you see? I think it's the Capitals are going back.
The Penguins.
I thought it was the Capitals.
Oh, okay, maybe we're talking about something different. No, the Penguins deliver tickets.
No, I know the Penguins deliver tickets, but if you would have let me finish my thought, Drew.
No, I don't want to.
Then you would have known that the Capitals are going old school and bringing back paper tickets.
Just as a replica sort of thing.
No, I think they're actually like going to have. I mean, I gave it a cursory look. Daniel Fink, play-by-play voice of the Manitoba Moose, behind us. But I think what they're doing is they're going to be doing an actual paper ticket.
You know what? I still have all of the all my paper tickets. I have them in a Ziploc bag. Like I have like the old.
All the old ones you buy at
from the Winnipeg Arena. Do you have those?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do we still have Illegal Curve friendship bracelets to give away? I can't see over there.
We do.
Okay, so Bailey, of course, superfan Bailey has made Illegal Curve friendship bracelets.
Here's my IC Dave one. I'm not giving that one away though.
Exactly. I got my IC Drew one, so keeping that close at hand. Come grab some Illegal Curve friendship bracelets. Make sure people can see those ones there.
Yeah, they're in the.
They're over there. Okay, good. Just make sure all the.
Drew, is yours going to be an anklet?
It's actually going to be a choker. It's going to, it's going to be like a late
90s cherry chokers.
I don't remember. But actually, I'm going to bring back puka shells. Then I'm going to.
I don't remember those.
You don't remember puka shells, like the Hawaiian shell necklace?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like 22 Jump Street.
And then I'm going to regrow hair, and I'm going to frost my tips.
Wow.
It'll be perfect.
Like Ricky Martin.
Yeah, Dawson's Creek style. Team Pacey or Team
I'm more
whatever
of a
the other one
bracelet
was.
guy.
I remember those.
Those are old school as well. Yeah. Those were also fun. In any event, something I want to talk about. We mentioned it with Paulie, when he was on with us, and Sarah Orleski set to join us in about 15 minutes' time. the hockey IQ of this Winnipeg Jets team, I think, is going to be something worth monitoring throughout the course of the season, because I think their hockey IQ is going to be exceptional. Now, this was not a dumb hockey team to begin with. You know, you see some teams, and they tend to be younger teams, where it's mental mistake after mental mistake after mental mistake, and you're like, what am I watching here? These are simple, routine plays. Young players in particular can get flustered. The Winnipeg Jets, by virtue of being such a veteran-laden team, I think are going to be one of the smartest hockey teams we'll see. And I always remember our old friend Slick Rick Ralph saying, you know, every team that had a young player or a rookie player, you know, that would end up costing them however many wins per year. Just the nature of the learning curve at the NHL level. This Jets team being so veteran-laden, I think that's going to be an asset for them this season.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and you just have to look, again, I keep going back to the players that they've brought in, right? Johnny Taves, literally known as Captain Serious, even though we're going to call him Taser.
Yeah, you're not allowed to. He texted and said
we don't use nicknames.
Yeah,
he's not allowed to use nicknames.
You, he's Mr. Taves still.
Okay, I'll call him Mr. Taves then, if that's what I have to do. But I think when you look at a guy like Gus Nyquist, right? Like Dave used to watch the Wings all the time when he lived in Michigan. I mean, Gus Nyquist is a very smart player, and there's a reason why he's had such a what does he have? Over 800 games. I think he's over 600 points, something like that. Just a couple of years away from a 75-point season, right? So there's no doubt, Drew, that those players that they've brought in, Tanner Pearson, Gus Nyquist, Jonathan Taves, but also this is a smart team to begin with, right? Like this is a team that was the best defensive team in the league for a reason, right? This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't like this was all Connor Hellebuck's goaltending and, you know, this team wasn't a dominant defensive team. No, this team was a dominant defensive team. They've got a lot of smart hockey players, whether you're talking about Mark Scheifele on the top line, whether you're talking about Cole Perfetti is a very intelligent player on the second line. You go back to 2020, guys, what was the big compliment to Cole Perfetti's game, in addition to the fact that he had over 100 points in junior, was that he was such a smart hockey player, right? So there's no shortage of smart hockey players on this team.
And it's been something the Jets have always put a premium on since returning, is high hockey IQ.
Right. Look at who they've drafted: Adam Lowry, Josh Morrissey, Kyle Connor's an intelligent player. Even though I think the defensive side of his game took him a little while. You know, that came around last year. In the last couple of years, he started to round out the defensive side of his game, right? So, yeah, this team is a well-oiled machine. There's a template for this team to win hockey games over the last couple of years. We know what that template is. Right. You take care of your own business, you get the puck out of your own zone, you possess the puck, you move it into the offensive zone, and then you let your forwards do the work, right? And you can get some offense, obviously, from your defense as well. But, I mean, this Jets team knows what they can do, and not only do they know what they can do, they do it well. And there's no reason to think that that's not going to continue. You bring in veteran players like Taves and Nyquist and Pearson, and we'll throw in Koepke as well. Not so much a veteran player, but just mentioning him as an addition. Yeah. There's no reason to think that this Jets team won't be similar to last year. Again, I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's a little bit dangerous to just pencil the Jets in as a 116-point team again. I mean, it's just hard to replicate that, right?
Yeah.
But I still think the Jets are going to be right up there with, you know, the Dallases and the Colorados in their own division, and they're still going to be, I don't know, I'm going to say 110-point team.
Wow, Ezzy, just dropping bombs like that.
We're not even at that point.
We haven't even done the predictions yet. That's a couple weeks away still.
We're still away from that, but
let me shift, do you want to touch on that? Okay, let me shift quickly to something that, kudos to you, it's available on illegalcurve.com. Jets co-owner, Mark Chipman, was on the 100% Hockey podcast. That's a hockey podcast with Darren Millard.
The Manitoban?
And John Shannon. They do a podcast. Mark Chipman was on there. Here's what he had to say about Kyle Connor. They asked him if he had any concern about Kyle Connor and his pending unrestricted free agency. This is the Jets owner's quote: "No, I don't. I don't. Kyle's been a Winnipeg Jet for a long time. I expect he will be for a long time. He's one of us." So that's Jets owner Mark Chipman.
One of us. One of us.
I mean, that's an emphatic statement by the Jets owner, I would say there. Your sort of thoughts on him sort of just saying, no, I have no concerns. I don't think this is going to be an issue. You know, compare his comments versus what what Kevin Cheveldayoff and Kyle Connor himself said earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean, like, essentially those guys kept it pretty close to the vest. Kyle Connor really didn't want to get into it when we talked to him on Thursday, and I'm not terribly surprised.
Right.
Kevin Cheveldayoff didn't say anything really other than, he would have liked to have the deal done yesterday, but, he's just said it's just, and that's kind of what Mark Chipman alluded to later in his answer. He essentially said that the framework between the two sides is positive. He says he's known Kyle Connor's representation since like the Manitoba Moose days in like the 96. So they have a good relationship there. And he essentially said it was a timing issue. So, I mean, to me, this isn't really a question of like, will it get done? It's simply, when does it get done? How much is it for? And what's the term? So my expectation, if I was going to give an answer to those three questions I just posed, Ezzy, my guess will be it'll get done during training camp. My guess is the number, based on what we heard from Dreger and Friedman, is that number, which I was originally thinking was going to be 10 to 11. Sounds like it's going to be, 11 and a half to 12 and a half is now where I'm predicting it's going to end up.
Well, I think the expectation,
remember, the reason I say, and I'm just going to say, because I don't know the years.
Fine.
If it ends up being an 8-year deal,
we'll
see. But if it ends up being a shorter term deal, then maybe the term.
And by shorter term, you mean 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Not 1 year, not 2 years.
Remember, to stick within the window of Velarde and Scheifele and Hellebuck. And if you're looking at the Jets and you're kind of, if you're hitching your wagon to the Jets right now, right, Ez?
Yep.
You're looking at these guys, and their core guys are all signed for 5-6 more years. So if you're Kyle Connor, do you want to be within that same window?
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about that previously on the show. I just found it sort of to be interesting, Ezzy, that the Jets owner would be so sort of emphatic with his comment in that case, saying, that he has no concerns about this, that he expects that this is going to get done. I think I saw earlier, I don't know which of the insiders it was, that said they expect that Kyle Connor is going to, after this all shakes out, be the second highest paid winger in the NHL. I mean, and that makes a lot of sense.
Friedman.
Was it Elliot Friedman who said that? Okay, there you go. There's a lot of people talking, so it's hard to keep track of it.
Talking.
But it just, to me, it's just one of those things that to hear the Jets owner sort of be so emphatic, I think is a significant comment from Mark Chipman, because he's not a guy who really speaks to the media very often, and then when he does, he's not a guy who typically makes emphatic statements to that extent.
Absolutely not, and I'm with Dave. I mean, this just feels a lot different than the Nikolai Ehlers situation last year, right? There's a lot of reasons for that. We've talked about the usage, and we don't have to rehash that, but I'm with Dave. I think it's just a matter of time before he signs. I wouldn't be surprised if he signs before the season starts. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's up to Kyle Connor's agent. That's up to Chevy and Larry Simmons and the Jets management staff. But there's nothing has transpired over the last year, over the last couple years, over the offseason that would change your opinion. This looks like it's going to be a long-term deal. And yeah, Dave, if it's a 5-year deal versus an 8-year deal, that'll change the AAV and everything like that. But it's looking like it's going to be an even bigger number than we thought it was going to be maybe a year ago, and that has a lot to do with Kyle Connor putting up a 97-point season, right? That's his career high. So I mean, he was going to get paid regardless. It was always going to be $10 million plus, right?
Yeah.
Now it's looking like it's going to be $11 million plus.
Yeah, I mean, again, these are good problems for the Winnipeg Jets to have, is to try and get a guy like that under contract on a long-term basis. And the fans will, of course, be happy if and when that does come to fruition. Again, you look at this Winnipeg Jets team, you look at the forward group, you look at the defense, it's the depth that stands out to me the most of anything, is that, they can, outmatch almost any other team when it comes to their 1 through 12 and their 1 through, well, not even 1 through 12, 1 through almost 15. That's how deep they go with forwards at the, at an NHL caliber. And even on the back end, 1 through 9. I mean, when I was on with Remo earlier this week on WST, and we were talking about the fact that if the bottom pair for the Winnipeg Jets isn't going well, whatever that bottom pair might be that one game, or one of those guys is struggling, to be able to plug in somebody else. We were just talking about that with Paulie. I think that is an asset for the Winnipeg Jets. You're not trying to have to necessarily hammer a square peg into a round hole when it comes to bringing talent up to the NHL level. They have that talent really up and down their roster and even up in the press box as well.
And they had that last year as well, right?
And it was beneficial.
Gabe Velarde goes out. Who moves up to the top line? It was Alex Iafallo that moved up to the top line, right?
A guy nobody talks about during the training camp at all.
Exactly.
He's just
I'll talk about him, Drew, because he's when you talk about
He's
depth,
got a great tan, by the way.
Does he?
Yeah, very good
yeah. Well,
tan.
when you're talking about depth, though,
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
sure he's outside in the woods all summer long. It makes sense.
yeah, Iafallo's an outdoorsman for
Yeah.
sure. But I mean, I think he's a perfect example of that depth, right? Like you could point to a guy like Morgan Barron as well, right? Who we got into a little bit with Paulie, but I mean, you guys know how big of a fan I am of Morgan Barron. I think he's due. He's not a guy that gets talked about like Scheifele gets talked about, like Connor gets talked about. I think he's due for a breakout season.
Are you surprised that Barron doesn't maybe get a look on that, third line role temporarily with Niederreiter and Iafallo as opposed to Nemesnikov?
Right. I don't, and that's the thing. It could be Nemesnikov. I'm not sure. But
so far, it seems as though that's the trio.
And if you've got Morgan Barron as your fourth line center, I'm fine with that as well. He could also be a fourth line winger. Like that's the thing, right, guys? Like there's a lot of different situations here. There's a lot of guys. There's going to be some good players that don't make the opening night roster.
Yeah.
Right. Like whether that's a David Gustafson, whether that's I think
Jared Anderson-Dolan,
Cole Koepke. I think I have in the top 12, but it's not guaranteed. I mean, like Cole Koepke doesn't have a guaranteed spot on this team.
You have to perform in training camp, especially in those bottom spots. I mean, because it's not even that. It's not like you're hoping for guys to make a jump from the AHL to the NHL level. You are, of course, but you also have NHL caliber guys fighting for that spot, Dave, fighting to be the 12th forward instead of the 14th forward, fighting to be the 11th forward instead of the 13th forward. The battle in that fourth line for the Winnipeg Jets, I mean, we mark it down in pencil on a piece of paper, but there's no reason to think that a guy like Nikita Chibrikov can't win that job. There's 5, there's 6, there's 7 options down there, and you best show up in order to win that job.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment, Drew, and I think that's true. I think remember, as I mentioned, Parker Ford's looked really good in camp so far. People forget because they're just taking it for granted. I mean, he came up to the NHL, scored in his first game last year, but the fact of the matter is Nikita Chibrikov, like, here's a guy who's ready, he's healthy, and he knows there could be an opportunity. I mean, just because a guy has NHL experience doesn't mean he's got a guaranteed job. You have to, I think the key to depth is that you're not, I couldn't tell you for certainty who your fourth line is going to be with the Winnipeg Jets because I don't know it. I have to watch training camp more to see. I mean, we're going to see next week when obviously a lot of the prospects who are here are going to get sent back down to their respective junior teams. And then we should mention Kieran Walton, of course, sustained a concussion, so he's in protocol right now. He did at the Prospect Showdown. But the fact of the matter is that we don't, like right now, do we expect Nikita Chibrikov to have a spot on the Jets? I don't, but he's looked really good in camp. Do I expect Parker Ford? Because, again, what goes against those guys? Their waiver eligibility. They're both waiver eligible. So because of that, they're more likely to be the guys sent down. They have to have exceptional camps in order to, keep a guy, to take a spot from a guy. So that is going to be something worth watching, though. I mean, again, as Drew alluded to, one of the things we've seen from Nikita Chibrikov is his compete has been off the charts in 2 days of training camp. Today's day 3. So if you keep that sort of mentality, again, like I said, we don't know what it's going to look like 100%. We have some idea. We have some reasonable expectations for what the lineup could end up looking like, but right now we don't know it for certain. So,
well, Paulie mentioned him, Walker Duehr. I mean, none of us have said a word about Walker Duehr. Most of training camp, he was a signing that most people thought, okay, this is a AHL Moose guy, but this is also a guy who played 27 games last year, or he's played 92 games in the course of his NHL career, so he's got some NHL experience under his belt. Last year was primarily at the AHL level, 8 games with the Sharks last year, but he knows what it takes.
He also played 16 with Calgary. He got claimed on waivers.
Sorry, that's right. 24 games in total, 40 games the year before with Calgary. So he's played some NHL games. Again, there's a lot of options here.
It's going to be tough to crack this roster. That's pretty much what we're saying here.
And you have to win a job.
Yeah. Right.
That's it more than anything, is that it's about winning a job. There's nobody, especially in that bottom, in that fourth line, that's going to be handed a job. You have to win it this year more than anything.
But that competition can only make your team better.
Iron sharpens iron.
Exactly. So the fact of the matter is that David Gustafson, who we always know David Gustafson, okay, he's going to be somewhere in the mix. Well, it's not guaranteed. He could be sent down. He could have to clear waivers. So and that's been a subject of conversation. Do we think
I do like Gustafsson as that 13th forward though?
Sure, of
because
course.
he's versatile, right? Like,
But to the
you'd
point-
rather have, like, and this is a conversation, as training camp continues and we get into the preseason and get into the early regular season, but I would rather have a veteran, and Gustafsson's a veteran at this point.
Yeah, of
right. Was he
course.
25 years old now? He's a veteran.
But what Paulie said, that he looks better than ever.
Right. That's
My point was I would rather see a player like David Gustafsson as your extra forward as opposed to a Nikita Chibrikov. I want Chibber, right? So and that's kind of where we're talking about. It's Chibrikov, Gustafsson. These are the players that you throw in. Tanner Pearson, right? Is he more of a fourth line guy than a third line guy? I would say so.
For sure. But I think again that's what training camp is all about. Yep. We know what your top 6 is going to look like, and essentially when Adam Lowry's healthy, we know what the top 9 is going to look like.
Right.
But again, one of the hallmarks of the Jets that made them such a good team last year was that they had a fourth line that they could rely on, and it wasn't this uncertainty, and it wasn't you'll get 4 minutes a game and you'll basically just try and tread water as best you can, but it was actually you could go out and do some damage. So that to me is the key for us to focus on here at training camp.
Well, our next guest has arrived here at the broadcast location, so we'll go to break. She's chatting with the fans because she's getting swarmed, given that she's that level of celebrity. Sarah Orlesky up next. You got time. We're going to do it at a break. You relax. Talk to your fans. Talk to your people. Sarah Orlesky up next. It's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We're live at Winnipeg Jets FanFest at Hockey for All Center. Don't go anywhere.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in 2 unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to Winnipeg Jets FanFest. This is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Bailey is giving Sarah her very own friendship bracelet. Look, we all have our own friendship bracelet. Isn't that great?
I love that. That's fantastic.
I know. Bailey does good work. She keeps us well jeweled, as the case may be.
I was just saying that, I'm a huge Swiftie fan.
Oh, right, of course.
And so, bracelets were obviously a very big deal in the Swiftie community.
Did you go?
I did.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Look at you.
Which show? Minneapolis?
No, Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Okay, good.
So I've seen her on her I've seen her actually three times.
Whoa.
Wow. Are you now? You and Zach Collaros are friendly. Do you think that he's going to garner an invite to the wedding?
I'm fascinated to find out, to be honest.
He has to, right? He's in the box, at the play. He's not just like an acquaintance. He's a college roommate.
I think it'll be fascinating to see what happens with that
wedding party.
Sarah, I have to tell you, on social media, I do love the fact that a lot of businesses have you seen this? A lot of businesses are saying, sorry, Taylor, we can't allow it. Like it's like an invitation company. Sorry, we can't do your invitations. We don't have enough. And the crazy amount of social media play companies are getting from this whole thing is actually pretty funny.
It's fantastic.
We actually told her, sorry, you can't be on the show, but thank you very much.
Sorry, Sarah's on this morning. You're going to have to wait.
Actually, what happened is we had Taylor booked, and then when Ezzy reached out to you, we had to bump Taylor. That's how it worked.
It's good for her to have a humbling experience now and then.
But it's tradition that you join us here when we're at FanFest, so it only makes sense.
Absolutely.
Anyways, thank you for joining us. I know it's a very busy day for you, but we do appreciate you giving us your time as always. The excitement is real, though, isn't it? Don't you feel the buzz?
I can't believe how many people are here. We were just talking about how, unfortunately, for several years now,
every Saturday at the FanFest, it rains.
It rains, and it was really pouring. But when I got here just before 8 this morning, and there were people lined up outside. The doors didn't open until 9, but there's so many people in here, and every time, so when practice started on one of the other rinks, every player that walked out, you could hear the woo from the crowd. And then the next player would come out, woo! So there's a lot of excitement for this season to get going.
And for the guys who haven't experienced this before, we know the Gus Nyquist, the Jonathan Taves, they haven't seen FanFest before, but even the younger guys or some of the guys that might be more AHL signings, there's an excitement to be able to witness this and walk through the throngs and experience the full frenzy of the Winnipeg Jets crowd. This is the appetizer. They know what it's like in the playoffs. They've all seen it. We've all seen the highlights. They've all seen the reaction to the Manitoba Miracle. They know that there's that level of excitement, and they want to be able to achieve that again.
Well, I think that sports fans across the board, when you look at Winnipeg sports fans, whether it be Jets fans, Bomber fans, there's such a passionate group. So to be able to get a look at something where you go, okay, well, preseason starts tomorrow, which is crazy. But the idea that this many people have shown up, and I was talking to Luke Shen the other day because he had gone to the Banjo Bowl, and he's a big Riders fan, and so, anyways, we were discussing.
We won't hold that against.
Yeah, I know. So we were discussing that though, and he goes, "Oh, I got to tell you, Winnipeg fans, that is next level." And I said, "What? So Winnipeg fans across the board, regardless of what sport you're watching, are great. So it's great for the guys to be able to get an introduction to it, to see what awaits them."
Yeah, no question about it. So training camp now a few days in. What's caught your eye? I asked the same question to Dave. He's been here. I think he sleeps here. I asked it to Paulie when he joined us about an hour ago. What's caught your eye at training camp so far?
Well, I got to be completely honest. Dave has probably paid a little bit more attention to it than I have. I've been sidetracked doing some other stuff. Yeah. So I always, the first couple of days don't usually, to be honest, interest me to the same extent as when we get a little bit farther into it, because I think that this one I'm intrigued to see once we start to get a little bit closer to that regular season and we start to see what some of the lines that we are anticipating and that we know are going to happen. I want to see them in action. So I'm one of those. But I like being able to see some of the new faces and get a sense of their excitement for being here, what it is that they're looking to what they've worked on in the summer, what they're looking to bring back in their game that maybe was missing last year. In the case of, that was something that Nyquist was asked about trying to kind of rediscover the magic from a couple of years ago. And so I'm just happy to be able to see the guys get back into the groove of things. And then, like I said, with preseason starting tomorrow. I remember when preseason, where it was twice a days, and it went forever, it felt like. So the fact that we're already going to see game action tomorrow on TSN, I might add, that is great. But it's happened so quickly. So you know what? If you had me on next week, I'll be able to give you a better idea.
Good answer, nonetheless.
Taylor's on next week, Sarah. We can have you on.
Yeah, she was able to reschedule the jigger schedule around.
We were talking about this right before you came on. There's so much opportunity on this team, but it's almost like there's so much opportunity, but not that many spots, right? And we talked about it's not so much on the top line, obviously, or on the second line. It's the bottom six, but it's going to be hard to make this team. And there's a lot of guys that we can talk about. Nikita Chibrikov, Brad Lambert, David Gustafson, Paulie mentioned. Yeah. He looks like he's in better shape than anybody, but it's not going to be easy to crack this team, even though there is opportunity to make the team.
Yeah, well, I think you look at how deep the roster has the potential to be and the veteran experience that they have, that if you are a young player, I think it is going to be tough to be able to make it onto the team. And I know that everybody gets excited every season waiting to see, which young guy's going to crack the lineup. But I don't think it's a bad thing that you have guys that are continuing to get seasoning in the AHL with the Moose. You don't want it. How many times have we seen young players rushed into a league and they haven't been able to have success? And if you're not going to place them in a role, or you're not able to put them in a role that plays to their skill set, what is the point? If you are a skilled forward, putting you in on the fourth line for the NHL is not utilizing your skill. So why would you do that? Just to get them the playing in there? That's not why you drafted them. That's not why you brought them on board. So I think that it's good. I think the Moose should have a stronger season this year, a stronger roster, and so to get them that experience. And then what did we see Scott Arniel do last season when there was an injury or there was an opening for somebody to be able to come up? He chose it based on the skill set. So it wasn't just the next person up. It was whoever fit that role, and I think that that's important too.
Sarah, one of the things I've been watching is the impact Jonathan Toews is having with these players. Mm-hmm. You can just hear the excitement from all of them. But from your perspective, what kind of buzz are you hearing from fans? Because we know that, again, we don't know what he's going to be able to do on the ice. We all can speculate all we want. He's looked good so far, but we don't know. We don't even know if he's playing tomorrow. We'll find that out either later today or tomorrow morning. But from your perspective, just kind of what's the buzz been? Because it just seems like Winnipeg's already excited because of last year, what it brought with the President's Trophy, the first round success against St. Louis, the falling against Dallas. But the guys were saying earlier, it kind of felt like unfinished business. But what kind of sense are you getting from fans, just in terms of the excitement with having Jonathan Toews in this market?
Well, I'm sure the same for you guys. Anyone that you talk to, people can't wait to see who he does. And I don't think that anyone's looking at him as coming in and being the savior. Everyone recognizes the difficulties that he's had, the health concerns over the last number of years, and the fact that he's 37 years old. With that being said, what a key component, if he can get back to it, what a key component of this roster he can be, and that leadership and that experience for it. You see that it, to me, I was always one of those people that bought into that idea of intangibles, and obviously his skill set is well beyond. He's a future first ballot Hall of Famer, but that idea of you're able to bring not just something on the ice but off the ice as well. And I think that when you talk to fans, people are so excited to be able to see what he does. And how you have
how can you not be, right?
How can you not be? I mean, you have it's not just a local player coming to play for the Jets. This is Jonathan Toews. This is, your Olympic gold medalist, your World Junior champion. He's done so much, and he's been such a key figure for his era in the sport. So I think people are so excited, and people want to see. And I had said to him, regardless of where he signed, there was going to be a tremendous amount of interest in his story this season. But you add that extra layer of him actually coming to his hometown and doing it. I mean, whenever his career wraps up, what an extra kind of feather in the cap for the Winnipeg Jets, but then also for him to be able to come back. It's unique and special.
Sarah Orlesky, our guest Saturday morning. It's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, broadcasting live from Winnipeg Jets FanFest at Hockey for All Center. Sarah, so many people are being counted on to take steps in their improvement. Cole Perfetti is at the top of everyone's list, but a guy that is sort of under the radar to me is Gabe Vilardi. Nobody's really talking about him, signed the long-term deal here in Winnipeg. And to me, this is a guy who had good health for most of last year until the tail end. But to me, this is a guy who still has room to grow when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets. Sort of now that he's further acclimatized to here in Winnipeg, what are you sort of expecting from a guy like Gabe Vilardi this season?
Yeah, I think that if we can continue to see the consistency from him in his game and the way that he seemed to have that chemistry with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, I think he's got to be a key component for the Jets. We saw the impact that he had on the power play. We saw the impact that he had on that line. So for him to be able to continue to grow is going to be pertinent for the Winnipeg Jets to be able to have success this year. They're counting on it. We know that they've lost some of that offensive skill with Nikolai Ehlers no longer being here. They're going to rely on Gabe Vilardi. And what I love seeing all the time is he's out there at the end of practice and he's always working. He always talks about how he's working with his hands all the time, and he's around the net. And Dave, we see it all the time too, that he's always on their stick handling at the end of practice and trying to work on it. And I remember him saying, I wasn't the fastest skater, so I needed to do something. And so that was what...
Is he doing it in a literal phone booth? Because we know he can do it in a phone
which
booth.
Which is so impressive. Yeah,
he really could. That expression fits Gabe Vilardi probably more than any other player, to be honest.
100%. And so we saw that last year, and we saw the impact that he had. And I think that, again, that's something that we'll wait to see what he can do with the Jets this season and the impact he can continue to make.
I wanted to ask about the defense, because a lot of talk is about the bottom six, second line, Johnny Taves, or I'm not allowed to call him Taser, apparently. I don't know are you allowed to call him Taser?
No.
Okay.
It's only Paulie's allowed to call him that.
Is that what he calls him?
Well, no. Apparently, that's what the guys in the room were calling him. So, and we were riffing on that with Paul earlier. Yeah. We're only allowed to call Paul Mr. Edmonds, so we still have a long way to go.
Or
aren't
Sir,
we all?
Or Sir Paul.
That's right.
He's knighted.
Sir Paul. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's McCartney. McCartney's been stealing his valor with the honorifics. Is what's been happening there.
No, but the defense obviously is very similar to last year. It seems like there's not a lot of talk. Neil Pionk signed his contract. Dylan Sandberg signed his contract. But when you look at this group as a whole, is this not just still the foundation of this team, right? It goes without saying. We talk about it all the time, and especially losing a guy like Nick Ehlers, there's a little bit of speed. You're going to lose a little bit of offense. There's probably going to be even more of an emphasis by Scott Arniel on the defensive side of the game. But I just look at this defense, and it's like, it looks the same as last year. You know exactly what you're going to get, nothing to worry about, which is a great thing.
Absolutely. Well, especially because, let's be honest, we spent a number of seasons talking about the defensive woes that the team had and how Connor Hellebuck saved them. Still, again, did last year. He covers up a lot of miscues when they do happen. You're able to rely on them, but you didn't
happen few and far between.
100%. And so they've made such great strides in that department. And you look at everything starts, and they always talk about, it starts from net on out. And it's true. You can't. How many teams have we seen that have offensive firepower that haven't been able to outscore their woes, or if it's struggles in net, or if you've got a leaky blue line? And so to be able to see the consistency with that group, I think that we've seen players take strides as well, and that have really fit in when they've been used in a variety of different ways. Hayden Fleury, when he stepped in, has played well. Same thing that with Colin Miller, and you see a number of players that I think they've got depth there. They can adjust maybe their bottom pairing depending on who they're playing against. If you need more size, if you need a little bit more grit, whatever it might be, and it's good problems to have. It's become a strength of the Winnipeg Jets, in my opinion.
Sarah, we heard Mark Chipman on the 100% Hockey podcast. I don't know if you've seen the quote, but he was asked about whether he had any concerns of signing Kyle Connor, and he was rather emphatic in his response. Essentially said, Kyle Connor has been a Jet for a long time. I expect him to be a Jet for a long time. Now, we've heard the insiders throwing around numbers like $12 million a season. But from your perspective, just how do you see this playing out? Do you see this as, because we saw with Nikolai Ehlers, right, with how it dragged for the year. Now, I will say it wasn't something that became a lot of conversation, because sometimes they say it can become a distraction. With Ehlers, it really didn't. We talked about it with them at the beginning of the season. We talked about it, I feel like, maybe around trade deadline a little bit, but really it was one or two times. Didn't become a distraction as sometimes they think about. But I suspect with Connor simply because Jets fans might be a little concerned 2 years in a row now, this type of situation. Do you think this is something that happens that gets into the regular season, or do you see it's going to be done? I think, were you interviewing Kevin Cheveldayoff? Maybe you asked him about it earlier this morning. I don't know.
That was Jamie Thomas that was interviewing him.
Okay.
So, but I ran into Jamie in the hall and he didn't mention anything. So it doesn't sound as if that it doesn't sound like Kevin broke anything on the stage regarding the contract
Great,
situation.
Sarah, if Kyle Connor signed during FanFest.
So we were talking about that how great would it be if you just trotted him out and then we're able to go, well, no big deal. But if you came to FanFest, you'd be able to see him sign it right now. That would be great.
It's not quite Portage and Maine, but Portage and Assiniboine Downs, it's almost the same thing.
I mean, it's the 2025 version of it.
There you go.
So I think that, obviously the Winnipeg Jets fans would be thrilled at any point in time if Kyle Connor was able to sign. But I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it'll be a distraction, and Kyle doesn't seem like the type to let it become one. But I also think that it'll be interesting to see how long it goes or extends in. But I think that there are several players that you can look at across the league, including a player that plays for the team that's in town tomorrow, that I think that we're going to be waiting and seeing maybe a little bit. But dominoes, much like when free agency comes around and sometimes you wait for those dominoes to fall a little bit, I think that could be the situation as well when you're looking at some of the contracts that are waiting to be signed.
That's a good point, yes.
Scott Arniel, is firmly established himself as the head man here in Winnipeg. What do you think his approach is this year, maybe, as opposed to last year? We talked about it at the beginning of our show, saying, he started with defensive drills, sort of reiterating to the players that our success, begins in our own zone, and that's how he started training camp again. What do you think sort of Scott Arniel does for almost like an encore this season?
Well, I mean, they certainly set the bar high last year in terms of regular season play, obviously winning the President's Trophy. But I think that there's going to be a comfort level that I'm expecting to see from Scott Arniel this year and that coaching staff. Even though he had been in Winnipeg for a couple of seasons as an associate coach, to get that opportunity as head coach, again, to have that responsibility with him, I think that last year, it was an adjustment for him. And I think that now you see that comfort level amongst all of them. So I think that this year it's about, especially early on, it's going to be about resetting, not resting on the laurels of what you accomplished last year. And we have heard a lot of it already, compete. And he has spoken about how this is basically another condensed season in terms of, February, what did the Jets have, 4 games or something like that? And so it's just nonstop. So last year they benefited from that incredible start that they had and were able to help ride that. Well, you can't be slow out of the gate with this one. You can't be building up. You have to come out of the gate competing hard, resetting, have that battle. And so you've seen a lot of the battle drills going on right now because they need that intensity right off the hop to be able to capitalize on it early.
Sarah Orleski, our guest Saturday morning, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show live here at Hockey for All Center. What's in store for the Jets on TSN broadcast this year? Any sneak peeks you want to let us in on?
Oh, I'm so excited for this season. Dan Roberts and Kevin Sawyer got back into town a couple days ago, so we're looking forward to another great season. And
can you confirm or deny that they just, instead of living sort of above and below each other, they're now just living in the same apartment together?
I don't want to say that that's going to be one of the intermission specials of just live vlogging of, we've expanded beyond runway, and now we're also going to do a behind-the-scenes series of Dan and Kevin. No, I'm just joking. But to be able to have the group back, everybody's so passionate about it. And when you look at our technical crew, so many of them have been around since day one or the very early days, so there's a lot of passion with it. And we'll also be showing on the broadcast a lot of the Winnipeg Jets content that our group has put out. Again, Runway's back for another season, our behind-the-scenes series, Home Ice, and our social team does such a great job with some of the pieces that they do.
What were they? What's it called? That's not the
Stanley.
Yes, the Stanley that they got for social media prowess in the off season.
I mean, we don't want to brag that we were named the #1 team in the league.
Brag.
But anyways, it's such, we have such a great group it's such a talented group that love doing it, and I think that by all accounts the Jets fans have really appreciated it, and we've hopefully been able to enlighten them in terms of not only what goes on behind the scenes, but just give them a glimpse of Winnipeg Jets players as personalities, because some of the guys are underrated funny that you don't necessarily think of, and I think that we have the opportunity to show some of their personalities a little bit.
Well, we're looking forward to that. 60 regular season games, but game number 1 of the preseason gets started tomorrow. We look forward to that.
Again, I cannot believe that the preseason starts.
It seems like yesterday was like August long weekend.
But I was going to say, it seems like yesterday was the start of camp, but it practically was.
Yeah, it's because it was.
That's right.
Hate to rain on your parade.
I know.
It was. Yeah.
It was, it's no big deal. Day 4 and we're already into preseason, but I love it. Just very quickly, I was asking one of the players about how do you feel about going forward. You're going to cut down preseason and that there'll be an 84 game schedule. They said that they were fine with preseason being shortened for it, and obviously from a financial standpoint and that ability with hockey related revenue to be able to have 2 more games is great. I said I was fine with cutting down preseason and probably cutting the schedule.
Yes.
I'd like to see the schedule end in May, not in June, but
the schedule, I think, when they play 6 consecutive 9 or 9:30 p.m. Pacific time starts in November. We looked at that for the post-game shows. I'm like, well, looks like we're not sleeping for a while there.
Those ones are so difficult. Also, I just, even though you said a couple seconds ago we're going to wrap, that very. When COVID was going on and we were doing the games from the arena, and so there was nobody in there, and so we were doing all broadcasts there. So I could hear Dennis and Kevin in the booth calling the games. Well, it was 9:30. You want to try staying awake for a 9:30 game if you are in a rink all by yourself in the middle? It was awful. I'm the queen of, you try to have as much coffee as possible, and then maybe, I don't know if anyone else is like this, maybe you watch the 3rd period in the morning. You immediately download Illegal Curve and be like, so what did happen in that 3rd period?
That's a plug now. That's a good plug.
Right.
Sarah Orlesky, thank you so much. We look forward to another season. This is great of you as always. Tradition to have you on here at FanFest, and we'll keep it going next year.
Hey, always love being on with you guys. And no one got traded so far today,
there
which also often happens when I'm on with you guys.
So far, so good.
We did have a comment, Sarah, where someone said, when Sarah's on, usually something happens of note.
But Sarah has to be getting her hair done first.
I know.
She has to be getting her hair done, then the big trade.
That's true. That's true.
It's
exactly
true.
Right there.
Have a great rest of the show,
guys.
Thank
you, Sarah. Have a great one. Sarah Orlesky, our guest this Saturday morning. We got a couple minutes left. I think the WST guys are going to take over after that.
They are.
I'll tell you what do we want to do for the next couple minutes here? We'll just wrap up our time here at FanFest.
Yeah.
Because it's so, hey, look at this sign that's going on right behind it. Hey, Winnipeg Jets, can you please sign your card? That's great. I mean, these guys are, I'm sure they're hopefully going to get some autographs. It's just
do they want Ezzy's autograph?
Yeah,
He'll sign
No,
right
I think
now.
I saw a Drew Mindell rookie card there from 1955.
I believe when I played on the Buzzards at River Heights Community Center in the House League.
The Buzzards.
Yeah, I think that was the team that I was on at that point in time. Everybody that can hear us, of course, keep scanning the QR codes over here. We have
We
great
don't need to scan it multiple times.
Well, yeah, scan it once. That's right. The duplicate entries will be removed. But scan it and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
For bonus
entries. We're giving away tickets to the home opener.
4 tickets.
We're giving away a prize pack. This is all courtesy of our friends at Play Now, official sponsor of the Winnipeg Jets. So, again, it's always fun being down here. It's amazing how fast this show flew by.
This one was like crazy.
10:57.
Especially when you show up late.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that's true. But what's crazy is the fact that the Jets are scrimmaging the scrimmage is on right now, and yet so many people, so many kids. It's great to see all the kids here.
I'm telling you, the walking up to the rink late, I should mention again late.
Yeah.
I was late.
Yeah, folks will notice there's no illegal curve banner as he didn't bring it.
Yeah, you didn't bring the banner.
Well, I knew I wouldn't have time to put it up. That's why.
I'm going to forgive you simply because it gave us the visual of you being replaced by Betty.
I might actually
and also, it's not like 10 years ago in the radio days when I was just hungover. I actually have children now.
That's right.
So I'm hungover with children. Yeah. It's a lot different.
For all those from social services in the province of Manitoba, he is joking about
Drew,
that.
I'm joking.
Chris in the chat is saying not seeing any QR codes. So here's a good question. How can people who are not here at FanFest
Yes.
enter the contest that you are now talking about.
So the contest,
because we have over 400 people right now watching online.
So the contest is also going to go live on our Instagram account on Monday morning. So Monday, be sure to keep it locked to our Instagram account, where you will also be entered. You will also have the opportunity to enter to win the tickets to the home opener. So for
I like all this scanning happening right now.
There's
everybody.
a lot of
This
people
is-
scanning QR
This is
codes.
top-notch scanning. Like it.
The QR codes are for those who are here live at FanFest, for everybody who's listening, either watching us live, over 400 of you, or those who are tuning into the podcast or watching the instant replay. Be sure to be on our Instagram account. Our Instagram account and our Facebook account.
Threads.
Exactly.
Blue Sky,
Follow us on
whatever
all
your
of our
social media.
Friendster. Don't you always forget Friendster?
We always do forget Friendster.
What was the one you signed us up for? It started with an M. Mammoth?
Mastodon.
No, Mastodon.
Oh, no. You're talking about the one.
No, Mastodon.
It was Mastodon.
Yeah, but there was the other one where you would show live videos, but it was really short. What was it called? Cyclone or something?
I don't know. I think you just made one up.
No. It was, you know which one I'm talking about?
No, I don't. Because the one
Vine? Was it Vine? Is that?
I don't know. It was.
In any event, follow our social media channels.
The Mastodon account, as he was excited to set up for a legal curve, and has never used since.
And you,
Remus would remember which one I'm talking about. It was like you would show like live short videos.
What's sort of Vine? Yeah,
Vine. That's
was
what
it Vine?
I said Vine.
I don't think it was Vine.
Okay, fine. You made up a different Instagram, a different social media altogether.
Interim coach says OnlyFans?
No, it started with an I. Anyways.
It doesn't matter. The point is, follow our social media channels. You'll have an opportunity to enter to win the prizes as well, courtesy of our friends at Plano. So for those of you who are here at Hockey for All Center, scan both the QR codes. For those of you at home, you enter online on our social media channels, and everyone will give away a prize. We'll give away some tickets to the home opener. We'll give away a prize pack courtesy of our friends at Plano as well. So it's a lot of fun here, a lot of fun in store. The first game of the season, of the preseason, is tomorrow. The regular season will start in a couple weeks' time. We're looking forward to the post-game shows. We're looking forward to all of the live on-location shows. It's going to be a blast as always. Go ahead.
Drew, I have to give you, before we wrap up here, I have to give you credit for doing the whole show with your one of your headphones.
It is pretty funny.
Dangling?
Completely dangling.
Yeah.
It's been dangling for the entire show. So good on you for doing that. I think it goes back to the radio days when we'd have to go through, we'd actually broadcast live during a blizzard.
Well,
so we've basically gone through everything.
The best was, we'd go into the radio station, and and we'd have to try and find working headphones. That was an impossible task. You'd walk in there, a headphone would just be dangling. You'd be like, well, this is just like an electrical frayed wire that's going to electrocute myself. That's what professional radio had in store for us.
And there'd be a large pizza from the previous, Lawless had eaten a large pizza and left it in the studio.
Whatever it is, in any event, we're thrilled that we could be here live at FanFest with so many of you scanning the QR codes, tuning in live. And of course, every Saturday morning we do this, and we do this after each and every regular season Winnipeg Jets game with the Illegal Curve post-game show. So we look forward to that as well. Big thank you to all of our sponsors who make this show a possibility. Our friends at Play Now, they're our title sponsor. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. Wheatland Hockey. We have a new segment coming on the post-game show with our friends at Wheatland Hockey. We look forward to that. I'll tell you two guys about that later. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. Boston Pizza, City Place, and of course, Holt Dental. The guys from Winnipeg Sports Talk are next to us. They're going to go live.
I'm a hustler.
With continued coverage from Winnipeg Jets FanFest. Kudos to producer Tim. He, of course, is the one who makes this possible. Thanks to all of you for joining us. For Dave Minuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I am your host, Drew Mindell. If it's Saturday, it's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.